Awesome. So the big looming thing that's been there for quite some time is Oil Camp. And um, some of us knew back in the summer that that Megan had some plans, wanted to implement Oil Camp, but it was just such a big thing to take on that she wasn't sure when or how, and she didn't have the time to kind of dive into it. So one of Megan's frontline, Rachel, did do Oil Camp. She implemented it with her team, and so I have meetings on the regular with the other frontline leaders. So with Colleen and Jess and Rachel, and we kind of get together to figure things out so that we're all learning and growing and using each other for support. And she told us a bit about Oil Camp. We learned a bit that way. And then it just so happens that about a week or two ago, we were meeting with Megan to really get the powwow, get the down low on how and what to do with Oil Camp. I missed that meeting, so Megan and I got each other caught up. And but the bottom line is that Megan's team is too big to really do an Oil Camp that way. An Oil Camp should be done with a team that is our size. So first of all, so for Glenda and Marissa and Kelly, have you guys heard of Oil Camp before? Okay, so what Oil Camp is this method to support and educate your customers. So put yourself in the customer's shoes. You've all been there at some point where you get your oils, and if you've been relatively new to oils, you don't have a clue as to what to do with them. So you are exploring, experimenting, looking for help, not knowing where all the resources are. And yet, the person who enrolled you probably gave you a welcome email, maybe added you to a Facebook group, and maybe you got busy. So how many times has it happened to us that we've sent out the welcome email, we've added somebody to a supportive Facebook group, we've pointed them in the right direction for doTERRA resources, plus maybe some books or some websites and things like that. And yet that person that customer falls off the radar because they really don't know what to do next. And so often their oils might get relatively unused. And then we go and circle back to do their wellness consult that we booked with them right in the beginning. And it turns out that they're busy that week and they cancel the wellness consult. So you kind of have this customer that isn't on LRP. You know that they need further education on their oils, and they've kind of fallen through the cracks because they're not quite educated. They don't know really what to do with them, and you know it's going to be something that they're not going to get the most and the best uses out of their oils. So Oil Camp is there so that people can get immersed, because we know that this kind of massive immersion allows people to learn really fast, feel confident, and then move forward. So what it is 2 weeks of a Facebook group, and in that 2 weeks, there's lots of engagement. They get points for engagement. Hey, Allie. They get points for engagement. They can earn prizes based on the number of points that they do, but there's 4 posts a day. Our leaders, so some of my main leaders are doing some videos, and I'll be doing some videos to create this Oil Camp, and it's all following a particular format and formula. So the people who go into Oil Camp, and this is a very important part of it, they are invited via an Eventbrite. And we only allow between 10 and 20 people into Oil Camp because that's the optimal number for engagement. If there's less, then it might be crickets. If there's more, what happens for the coaches who are running Oil Camp, so that would likely be me and maybe one of them, maybe it's me and Amy. And me and Amy are the 2 main coaches for Oil Camp for those 2 weeks. And we're monitoring all of the comments so that we can reply and answer the questions and also monitor for points as well. But if there's more than 20 people in there, it ends up being way too much. And for the people who are in there, instead of learning and drawing from the experience, they get bogged down. They get bogged down with too many comments, and it becomes overwhelming. So there's this sweet spot that is that kind of spot where there's enough people commenting and enough answers to the questions that they're learning like crazy. And we all learn from it because there's all kinds of different methods and uses of oils. And then they get the most out of it in this 2 weeks long. Now, in this time, all that's being focused on are the top 10 oils, a tiny, tiny bit about the vitamins, but it's really not the focus. There's a few DIYs, but mostly it's the top 10 oils, with us filming a little bit about how we use those oils. So we'll have about 21 videos. Those will be getting posted along the way. It's all pre-scheduled. It's a lot of work, but once we've done it once, then what we do is we run that oil camp about every, say, 6 weeks or so. We might run it, I was thinking about once a quarter, but I'm thinking running it maybe in April, a May, and a June, because spring is usually such a hot time. Summer's usually a little slow time, so I was thinking running another one in September, and then maybe hitting an oil camp 2 in an October, and then running another regular oil camp in January. I know this might sound a little overwhelming, but oil camp 2 is a whole nother level. So instead of introducing the top 10 oils and how they can be used and some resources from doTERRA or some DIY homework or things like that, Oil Camp 2 gets a little more into other products, more on the LRP, more on other options. Maybe somebody emerges as a builder. So there's extra things there because Megan purchased Oil Camp 2 as well. That is there as an option for us. But really for our team and the size of our team and the customers that need our support, Oil Camp 1 would really be key and the tool to optimize what our customers need right now. Amy and Shauna and Ali, I've been so immersed in learning about Oil Camp over the last few days to get myself educated that, you know how sometimes you forget what, when you know something, you forget how it needs to be told. Am I forgetting something in there that's key for people to understand?
Hey.
Hi,
so, yeah, you're not forgetting anything. That's an awesome way to explain it. I think it's important to know that Oil Camp 1 is really about like supporting your customers like right from the get-go. That's basically the first touch point with your brand, right? So people are enrolling and then you want to be like, okay, here, now we're going to nurture you. This is not an overwhelming experience. Like we got you covered with your top 10. And then Oil Camp 2 is like, okay, now let's learn about oils, but we're going to take you from a reactive approach of using oils to a proactive approach. And this is really about the lifestyle and just like walking you through that. So then now they're, lifelong users basically. So that's basically the reasoning behind it. And you explained it perfectly. Yeah.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
That helps a lot because I love the terminology reactive and proactive. And that's so appropriate because if you think of how we enrolled with oils and how a lot of our customers enrolled with oils, it's usually because we had a need of some sort, whether it was children, whether it was lifestyle, whether it was health. There's usually a need of some sort, and that is reactive in nature. And once people can see the power of the oils, that proactive way of looking at their life, seeing themselves as their most important asset, seeing their health and their body and taking care of ourselves as our most important asset is a mind shift. And that only really happens with oils as people start to use them and understand the power of them. So that's that whole initial thing where if somebody doesn't feel confident enough to use them and crack open the bottle and start experimenting, this is what Oil Camp is doing. It's allowing them to get little mini assignments. And the ask is, oh, Lindsay's son just puked all over. The ask is that we're asking for 15 to 20 minutes a day, and we're giving them a ton in those 15 to 20 minutes a day. So we don't want them to have to invest a massive amount of time over the 2 weeks that they're in Oil Camp, but we do want it to be really high value time. So when they're getting those 4 posts per day, it's something that they're gonna learn, likely remember, because there's a visual, there's usually the video with it, and because they're being asked to do some action with it at the end of many of the days, either some comments, either some questions, maybe even trying a super easy DIY, but things like that, then they start to build their confidence over the course of 2 weeks. And then by the end, there are things like surveys, feedback, but by the end, the whole system of Oil Camp allows us to get feedback. We understand at the end, we understand who's done what activities. There's going to be the people, like there always is, the ones who are going to sit back, not comment on a single thing. Maybe we reach out to that customer and find out that they've watched every single thing, but they weren't interested in winning the prizes. They just wanted to learn, and they just weren't interactive. So there's going to be all sorts in there, and that'll be all good. But as long as we're prepared for all of that. And what the way that it will go, so initially, like Allie's pointing out, this is about supporting them, especially when they first enroll. However, we're going to kind of have I'd like to start it with the very first one, beginning in the first week of April, which ends up being April 1st. But what that would look like is myself, Alicia, likely Lindsay, Robin, Mel, as well, and Amy, and all of us, and Shauna, we'll see where Shauna's at with a baby. That's what we're kind of waiting on there. But we'll see this entire group, we'll see who is going to invite a certain number of people. And once we hit that threshold of 20 people in that group, then we're not going to invite more people. But we're going to test it out in that first Oil Camp in April, so that then on the next Oil Camps, then we simply send out to our teams, you say, Glenda, you have 5 invites available to Oil Camp. If you have new customers, please send this special Eventbrite link to them, and it will take care of the follow-up emails. It will, whether they register or not, it'll make sure that that we get we have tracking and confirmation. And the other thing that will happen is that in that Eventbrite, I can go and add people or admins into the Eventbrite, so we can see who registers for Oil Camp. We can tell who enrolled them. So they're going to have a questionnaire in Oil Camp, or in the Eventbrite, that says who enrolled you, and then we can tell whose customer that was once they go in, and support them accordingly. So there's more information that we'll have to get out to everybody, but especially if we're running this on April 1st, what that means is by the time we have our next team meeting, we're literally going to be in Oil Camp for the first week. It'll be week 1 of Oil Camp, and then the second week will be week 2 of Oil Camp. So by the time we have our meeting at the beginning of April, our team meeting, we'll be able to say, hey, this is how it started. This is how many people we have in Oil Camp. This is what the first day looked like, because chances are, I think our next meeting is on April 2nd. So we will literally be 1 day in Oil Camp and be able to be telling everybody, you know, how it got launched, how many people are in, and what it's starting to look like. And then as it grows, instead of only having, say, me and Shauna and Amy and Alicia and Lindsay, certain people doing the videos, as our leaders grow, we'll have other leaders doing a video in there, here and there, so that their customers are seeing their own leaders. They're not just seeing people, so that all of the leaders end up stepping into a leadership role, And that is how the customer sees that they're not only being supported by their own, the person who enrolled them, but an entire team. And then it evolves as the team grows so that it is specific to the leader and their team as you go along. This whole program is something that Megan has made available to her front line. As our overall team gets larger, it's something that as other team members get to higher ranks, say silvers and golds and platinums and that kind of thing, then it's worth it to have your own oil camp for your team, because you want to start to empower your leaders to start oil camp with you, kind of thing. So if you can learn this now with us kind of paving the way on how to do oil camp, it's something that you can set up for your future team and your future organization as you go along. Okay, so I described a lot of that. I know that might seem a little bit overwhelming, but it probably has spawned some questions. And I know there's a few people who are going to be watching this recording who couldn't make it on. So I really want to make sure that these questions are comprehensive so we can cover off whatever people need to know about. And then once we get through oil camp questions, if there's any other business points that we need to touch on, we will address those right away as well. Hey, Maria, I didn't get to say hi. Okay, so questions. Between the things that I've been learning and Ali, who's been a key point in getting oil camp set up for Megan. And did you help Rachel get it set up too, Ali?
No, Rachel did her own thing, and she just got the login information and went forth and conquered.
That's basically what we're going to do, is just kind of roll with it. And I've been learning by the minute. Every free minute I have, lunch, eating, dinner, whatever, I'm watching oil camp videos to figure everything out.
It's not your life.
It's become my life. It will probably be my life for the next 4 weeks at least. Well, 6 weeks. Whenever the first one finishes, then I'll take a breather and then start launching the next one again. So, okay, so questions right now. I know some of that might be a little, information overload, but what's there for you? And I know that Shauna and Amy, you've been able to sit with it for a little bit. So did other questions come up for you? What's going on? Well, Amy can't talk, so Amy can type.
The only question that maybe people are floating around is how we had talked about that 10 to 20 because of engagement, less than 10, lack of engagement, more than 20. Sometimes it's too many people in the group. So as far as the entire group for your team, do you want to just explain how it would be? Is it kind of that first come, first serve that will be added to it, or a little bit more information around that component?
I think the first oil camp is really going to shine light on what we need to do going forward. But my intention for the very first one was to quite literally use any of my high-level leaders would have a certain number of invites, including myself. And if we each had, say, 8 invites, but for instance, let's just say, Shauna, for your team, let's just say you only had 4 people that were your most recent enrollments that you wanted to include on oil camp, and you wanted Simone to have a couple of invites too. You could always do that. But let's say say we all had 8 invites, and each person, for argument's sake, 2 people registered for each person. So then that's 16 people. We've got room for a couple more. So I would probably put it out there to whichever leader I felt had maybe needed just a little more support. That one leader, I might say, hey, you know what? There's an extra 4 invites if you want to ask so-and-so or so-and-so into oil camp and do those extra invites. That's probably how, I'm not for sure, but that's probably how I'm looking to approach this first one. And then from there, from the high level standpoint, we can all decide, okay, on the next oil camp, what leaders need to have some invites into oil camp because they've been enrolling new people to come in, or new customers, and those new customers need some support. They need to get into oil camp. So I think that we collaborate as a group to really decide. And then ultimately my invites end up being where some of my enrollments have been placed overall in other people's teams. So
can I ask a question, Cara, just because I joined a little bit late? So the people that you're inviting to the April 2nd oil camp are the a few people that you've enrolled.
Sorry, I missed the last part.
It's the people that you've enrolled recently.
Right. So for you, Maria, I would suggest that I'm going to take a look at who I have available to invite, but there's a high likelihood that the last couple people that you enrolled might be an option for that April oil camp. That makes sense?
Yeah, that they won't be an option, correct?
They could be an option.
They could be?
Because they might be within some of the people that I might want to invite as more recent enrollments.
Okay, and this oil...
Or for Mel, they might be people that Mel wants to invite, your last couple enrollments or whatever it happens to be. But even if they're not invited into that first oil camp, if you know that there's new invites and you're telling them there's going to be an oil camp coming up, you're going to have the date for the next one in May. So you're going to be putting that on the radar of new enrollments to say, okay, the best way for you to get educated is to just start reading the booklet that you got with your oils and go through that welcome email that I sent you.
Yep.
And you're going to say, I'd really like you to be on the next oil camp, and I'm going to send you an Eventbrite invitation. You have to register for it, and it'll be on Facebook, a private group, but you give them the heads up because once we have this set out, you're going to know the date of the next oil camps, even if they can't get into the April one, because we're an April one, a May one, a June one, and then likely skip over to September unless we've got some really motivated leaders because I can't do it all myself. So I need to have at least 2 other coaches every single oil camp, and I need to be somewhat available. You need to collaborate because I can't do it alone. It's that intensive. It needs that much work. But the first one will be the most work, and then the ones after that, so much of the beginning videos and everything will already be made because we put this work in over the next couple weeks, that then we'll be able to use that later on when we're doing our oil camp.
So this is all educational, inspirational camp.
How do you use these oils and how do you get comfortable with them so you don't feel like you're lost every time you pull out your oils and you look at them and you're like, oh my gosh, what do I do?
Okay.
And here's the beautiful thing. I want to revisit this with my my top leaders just to figure out whether we, as a group, as a team, whether we get all the Empower leaders into the oil camp to observe, not as participants, but just to watch it go down so that they understand what it looks like, so that when they plug in their customers. So for instance, maybe for this first April oil camp, maybe there's 60 people in there, but 20 of them are new customers.
Right.
You know what I mean? 20
yes.
engaging, but the rest of the people who are in there are us. And then there's going to be 2 or 3 coaches who are active. So maybe it's me and Amy and Alicia, and we're the active coaches responding to the people, answering the questions, doing the things. But then there's Marissa and Glenda and Allie and everybody else watching everything go down so that they have a real finger on the pulse of how oil camp goes down. So when they get their next customer and they want to serve that customer, they're going to go, you know what? You're going to get so much out of this oil camp. And then what happens down the road as Allie, as Glenda, as Marissa, as Maria, as you're all stepping up into your leadership roles, well, guess what? Then Glenda swaps in for that lemon video, that 2-minute lemon video that you had done before. Glenda's going to do the 2-minute lemon video instead. And her face is in that oil camp. And then as we go along, Allie's going to do the tea tree video as we go along, because she's going to swap out maybe a tea tree video that I did at some point, so that her leaders or her—
I got you. Yeah.
Her face in there. So as the leaders are evolving and growing with their own businesses, you want your customers to see you in there eventually. But initially it's going to be me and my qualifying leaders in there initially. And then maybe in another 3 months, 4 months, we start changing out some of the leaders that are in there.
Okay. And is this camp about an hour long? If you were to ask?
So the camp is 2 weeks long, but for each customer, it would be about a 15 to 20 minute commitment per day.
Every day.
Every day. So about 15 to 20 minutes each day. And that's what their overall commitment is. But Maria, I'm recording this video.
I'll watch it. I'll go. Yeah.
The beginning part of it, because
Perfect.
we'll keep updating, but because I need to have this recording, there's a few people who are missing this as well. And
Okay, sorry. Yep.
No worries.
Continue on. Continue on. Perfect.
Okay, so more questions too, guys.
So I just wanted to circle back to the Eventbrite registration. So that's how you invite people, is through Eventbrite, but you go, basically, you would send somebody a link and they would go and they would register. And you can set the amount of tickets that are available. So say you want there to be like max 30 people or max 20 people, then you would set the ticket limit at 20. So when you invite somebody, they'll see that there are a limited amount of tickets. So
right.
that they need to reserve their spot. And so they need to be committed, because otherwise that spot will go to somebody else, right? Yeah. So, and then through Eventbrite, you can also set up, well, what will be set up is automatic emails. So they'll get reminders about like when the camp's going to start and, hey, it's starting today, so that they will be engaged and they will be excited about it. So,
yeah, those emails will go out. There will be 1 2 days prior, right, on the Saturday. And then there will be one the morning of, so that they're reminded that it's happening. But prior to that, as soon as they've registered, whoever is their upline or whoever enrolled them will see that they have registered, and will add them into the Facebook group so that they are in there, added by their leader. So there's a very specific system to it, and I think that if we follow the system, I think it'll work very well. It's just the learning curve of learning the system initially and really kind of getting everything on board and going from there. But I wanted to make sure that I want to have people understand what it is, what it can do, and how, if we can have this be something that's consistent for our team and we can learn how to do it efficiently, then it can be something that really causes a lot of understanding, confidence with your customers, a real sense of where to go with their own health. So they're going to feel empowered not only to be able to look up a resource from doTERRA. So what used to be doTERRA University is now in doTERRA.com. They'll be able to look up from doTERRA. They'll be able to know from their own experience. They can look up little DIYs. Like, they will feel really good by the time those 2 weeks are up. They'll feel confident with the oils that they have, and feel confident enough to potentially start to want to learn about other oils outside the top 10 oils. But in this oil camp, we're not even really going anywhere beyond the top 10 oils. We're just going to stick with those so that they feel very confident with them, and then move forward after that. Other questions right now, guys? Is this scary to anyone? Is anyone kind of going, oh, I don't want to add anyone? No? Okay. Well, it shouldn't be scary, because basically I'm going to be, Allie knows everything that goes into this. So she knows what I'm facing when it comes to the amount of work that's going to come up, and whatever videos that everybody else is going to be recording. So it's going to be kind of head down and get it done for the next 2 weeks. And then once it's in place, then it's going to be, okay, now the anxiety of getting it launched the first time. But then on that last day of Oil Camp, it's looking forward to all the comments and seeing how everybody learned, and really kind of that feeling of, okay, we did it, and this is what we set out to do. And now we've got this support system that's really deep and really comprehensive for our customers. Other questions, guys? On Oil Camp specifically, and then if there's no questions on Oil Camp, then we will open it up for any other business-related questions, doTERRA-related questions, you name it, whatever's there for you. Nothing, guys? Come on.
Question.
Okay, yeah.
So once we get through the first 3 months, and I kind of thought about this morning after our call last night, and we go into Oil Camp 2, are we going to have an area that will be archived to bring any new customers into the basics of Oil Camp 1? Or what are the thoughts around that?
Well, I think we'll keep, I think we should have kind of a schedule of Oil Camp 1 that goes for anywhere from 9 months to a year, so that we are constantly either regurgitating or renewing it as it goes along. So as I looked at the calendar, my first thoughts were getting one at the beginning of April, going to one towards the middle of May, another one in June, another one in September. Those are all Oil Camp 1. So we just, and my intention with that is that once we've gone through a lot of the new customers, that we start to tap into some of the customers that we really feel didn't get the kind of support in the beginning that we wanted for them. Maybe they missed their wellness consult. Maybe they were never really into the Facebook group, or they never engaged in the Facebook group, so you don't know if they're using it. Maybe who knows? But there's going to be key people that you invite, and I think that in the May, June, and September, that we're not only putting new people in there, but maybe the occasional older customer from a few months ago who maybe just might need a little more support or whatever it is. But then launching a first Oil Camp 2 in October. And my reasoning for that is because by then, if there's been 4 Oil Camp 1s, I think, Allie, you can tell me if I'm wrong on this, because I haven't gone through Oil Camp 2 yet, but I think that the people you would put in Oil Camp 2 are people who have gone through Oil Camp 1. So I didn't want to introduce any sort of Oil Camp 2 until I know that if there's been 4 Oil Camp 1s, we should have a handful of people who would be appropriate for Oil Camp 2. So that first Oil Camp 2 should likely be the people who are really engaged in Oil Camp 1 and a bunch of us as leaders, so that we understand Oil Camp 2 as well. And I was thinking about that in October, because I figured that September, if we're running an Oil Camp 1 in September, it should be a relatively easy one to run, because we've done it before, we know what we're doing, and we would run it right after convention. Because convention, there's going to be a lot of buzz right after convention. We can get an Oil Camp run right after convention, and then that would be Oil Camp number 4. But then after that, in October, we should have enough people to put in an Oil Camp 2. And then usually November is the biggest month of the year when it comes to sales. And December is Christmas. So I figured we'd run another Oil Camp 1 in January, and then on a less frequent basis, run Oil Camp 2. So for maybe every 3 Oil Camp 1s we run, maybe we're running an Oil Camp 2. So I'm still playing around with the concept of when all of that is going to happen. So maybe we run, you know, an Oil Camp 1 each quarter roughly, or maybe one every 2 months, something like that. And then on month 3 or 4, we're running an Oil Camp 2. But I'm just trying to conceptualize the whole schedule. Does that, can you see the methodology there to how it could really start to work well? Like this is, what this equals is customer retention. The reason that would be the outcome is because they've been supported and they understand their oils. The reason people drop off aren't because the oils don't work, because they work. They work for damn near everything out there. So that's not why people drop off. People drop off because of uncertainty, from insecurity, from not understanding, or being busy. They got distracted, so they never learned what they needed to learn. That's why they drop off. So I think this mitigates a lot of that, assuming they're willing to engage in Facebook. There's a lot of people who aren't on Facebook. So that's a different beast, but we do have support systems for that, and that comes out with the welcome email and the email drip campaigns that come from that. And that's what Amy wrote in. Is there an option for people who don't have Facebook? With Oil Camp, there isn't. This is it. The best option that we have as an alternative, I think, right now is Ange's 30-day or 90-day drip campaign. Because if they sign up for that, they're getting the email automatically every few days or every week or so, depending on which campaign they're on, because one is slower, one is quicker, and that would be our best option for it, I think. We can also create our own, and I started working on that, but I haven't had the time to really devote to it. But here's the thing. If we have all these freaking videos to put into Oil Camp, then it's just a matter of, because I have an entire MailChimp account, then it's just a matter of putting it all into an automated MailChimp thing. So we could create an email thing that's our own team's version of it. That doesn't have to be, we could always use Ange's. Hers will be beautiful and well done, but we could always make one of our own, especially if we have all the videos that we've done ourselves for Oil Camp. Any last questions there, guys? Because you know that when I get off here, I'm watching more Oil Camp videos, so I know what the hell I'm doing. Because that's my life now, and I feel for Allie because I know what she went through to learn it all. Okay, any other questions that are different from Oil Camp or anything at all, guys?
I just want to be clear one more time. They have to be a Facebook user. They have to have a Facebook account. We invite them.
They have to be registered in the Eventbrite. So the only way you could invite them, Maria, is from one of us. So me or Mel, you've gotten the link, the special Eventbrite link for that particular month's Oil Camp. And once you do that, then we say to you, Maria, you know what? You've got 4 invites to Oil Camp. Any of your new enrollees new customers that you want to invite, use this link to invite them.
And we do that all over Facebook, right?
No, you could, I would use that link privately. So you would use.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would use that link privately so that you are only giving it to those specific people. So
that's right. Okay.
We will give you a sample script for that kind of thing that you can say, hey, I thought you might really like this for your new oil learning. There's only invites for a few people. And then here's your invite. If you register for this, then you're in. Once we see that they're registered in Eventbrite, then you or me or Mel or whoever would add them into the special group from Facebook. So you'd have to know that. So one of the questions with your new customers would be, can we support you via Facebook, because we have some really good groups. If you know that they're on Facebook, then they would be one of the key people who would be a great option for Oil Camp.
And these, can they just be regular wholesale people, or do you need them to be wellness advocate? No, they can be this is the key, wholesale.
These are our customers. Yeah, these are our wholesale customers.
Okay.
These are for people who are already customers. They're not for potential customers.
Okay.
They're people who, like, the concept with this whole thing is that they understand that we're not selling them anything. We're supporting them, period. Like,
Got you.
it's about support. This isn't about, they already purchased. They
Got you.
already bought the product.
Yeah.
We're supporting them so that they can best use your oil, so they don't collect dust, and they've got the best support system with what we're providing them.
And they have purchased them not through my retail store, but they've purchased them by themselves, correct? And have an account.
They have a wholesale membership.
They have a wholesale. Okay.
Ultimately, Maria, the way you'll be setting up is like we talked about, where you're probably going to do a few retail sales, but you're likely going to.
I got you. Yep.
You know what I mean?
I get it. 100%. It's just a window for the opportunity.
Bingo. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it.
Any other questions, guys? Awesome. Okay, the more I talk about it, the more excited I'm getting for it, the more obsessed I'm going to be with it over the next couple of weeks and getting it done. So keep watching for either posts we put in our Facebook group. So in the Empower Essential Leaders, watch for just little updates so that you know when things are going down. And as we know more, we will share more. So watch for whoever your key uplines are. We'll all keep each other, but keep you updated as well. And then next meeting will be April 2nd, which would be the second day at Oil Camp, assuming everything goes off without a hitch. And what else? I think that's it for now. Oh, leadership is coming up, so I will probably be trying to post a few things on leadership, all the fun stuff that's going on there, and any of the new things that we're learning and stuff like that. Cool. Okay, guys, you excited? I'm excited.
I'm still learning the leadership and your lingo.
It's okay.
Okay.
There'll be lots of fun, good things that you'll be learning. Okay. Have a great night. I'll post this recording in the group. So if there's a leader that you have that needs to watch it, or we'll make sure it's in there so you can see and go back if there's other questions that you have, if you need to review. Have a good night, guys.
Perfect. Have a good night, you too. Bye-bye. Bye.